Hi, guys. My name is Thaon Simms, and welcome to the Limitless Podcast. Joining us, as always, is your co host, Dr. Matthew Preston. Hail up the people, and Matthew.
Hey guys, what's good?
Excellent. Now, today, we actually came together because on the phone we were talking about just NCB, right? And its stock performance. And, we said, kind of have to talk to you guys. And we also want to know what you guys think about NCB as well. We did a Tickers earlier this year, a Tickers episode earlier this year, I
Last
believe.
year.
Or
Last year.
last year. It was probably last year
Yeah.
on NCB. And, we broke down, how the business worked and everything. So we'll leave a link to that below, just to check out the revenue lines, what makes them tick. No pun intended, of course. But now we've been seeing the stock price steadily decline. And we were wondering, what caused that? Will they ever recover? Those are some of the questions we'll get into on this episode. So if you guys want to hear more about this, drop a like, smash that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it because we have a goal of about 5,000. A goal of 5,000 subs by the end of the year. It's hella ambitious, but we're going for it same way. So if you guys, could help us out, we'd really and truly appreciate it. And let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Because is NCB going to $20, Preston, or 30, or whatever price below APO price? I mean, what do you think about the company itself?
Well, I mean, they're NCB. Is that the largest or the second largest? They're the largest or second largest bank in Jamaica. They are the controlling shareholder in Guardian, which is like one of the largest, if not the largest, insurance providers in the Caribbean. Guardian is profitable, NCB is profitable. I think in some ways it's a good example of the difference sometimes between, sometimes people just look at all the fundamentals of a company, I guess, and they could look at things like different valuation metrics that say, price to book or price to earnings, like compare the profit to the amount of shares and things like that. And it's not always as simple as just that, like, when the PE reaches this point, it's a good buy. Just buy when the PE is at 6 and sell when the PE is at 10.
Yeah.
I wish it was a lot more simpler than that. But it is not that simple.
Have you ever been told to buy NCB shares? By a broker, by an advisor? Have you ever been recommended NCB and seen recommendations of NCB as like a buy?
I think with the APO last year, I think some of the brokers had put out buy recommendations. I don't remember specifically like which broker and such.
Do you remember the APO price?
I think it was like $65 was the APO price.
$65,
the additional
I
public
believe
offering price.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there were...
what are they trading at?
Today, when we're recording, it is $46.45, so just below 50. Yeah, but I was just saying that, like, don't... Oh, look. So there's an article. Let me share it. This has aged quite well.
Thursday, March 20, they traded as low as $40.
Look at this article. So David Rose wrote this May 2024. Brokers give thumbs up to NCB APO. Said NCB's APO has received the green light from several brokers who have published their reports. Let me see. 6 brokers have published reports, and all indicate that it is a good buy. With the offer price of the APO being lower than the estimated value of the shares. VM Wealth Management says it was basically $80 stock. Based on this article, Proven Wealth said $70. JN said... So basically all of them were saying that, this was discount, I guess, to what it said the true value. But what I was saying was that I think so far the NCB story is
Pause. You said it was a discount to true value. What's true value? Because if market price is 62 and APO price is 65, is the APO a discount to the true value or the market price? So it's always so funny to see those kind of stuff because we've heard those kind of things as well, you know. And you know, it's, I don't know, man. Like for me, especially, and let's stay on the APO point for a bit because the reason they did the APO, right, was to raise money to, like, why does any company do an APO that or a secondary offering, right? You're collecting money. You need to use that money to do something. So you're raising capital. It's a way to raise capital, right? Now, what was NCB doing with that money? Do you remember? Like what the use of proceeds was from the prospectus?
I think they may have said to pay down debt.
I think it was refinancing debt as well.
I'm not sure what actually ended up happening, but I mean, I can probably try to pull it up. But yeah, I mean, what I was trying to say was that I think it's a good example of, yes, maybe the fundamentals might look good. Oh, the PE is good. This is good. But, you know, a lot of times it will still come back down to other dynamics that you have to kind of think about when, as an investor, I guess, on like a market, especially like a public market, because the market doesn't always value private equity people will value businesses differently than, you know, there's like a stock market or the public. And also even just, you know, go back to things like supply and demand. You know, the business could look amazing and all those stuff could be amazing, but if there's like, say, you know, tons of supply in the markets and there continues to be tons and tons of more supply, it's like the price just won't move unless the demand outweighs the supply.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you have to kind of remember stuff like that, you know. I'm trying to see if I can find use of proceeds. Oh yeah, I found it. Let me. Oops. Almost left.
Yeah. Found it
so
as
this
well.
said, oh, use of proceeds. So they said, expect to receive net proceeds of 5. Well, they didn't raise that much, 5 billion. I think they did like half of that, like 2.5. And they said, we intend to use the net proceeds to support parts of our deliberate plan to reallocate capital, reducing debt, bolstering the capital. So they want to pay down some money they owed people. Yeah. But yeah, I think some of the things that kind of stood out to me, like I was watching the whole APO thing from like before, from the mentioned APO, right? And one of the things that stood out to me, I wonder if I can find it. There was a article, right? And Leechen was quoted. This is the article. So this was in September 2023. It said, observe article, all roads lead to dividends, right? So this was before the APO. And I remember reading this before the APO, and I was like, there was a line in it that stood out to me. Because he said, so this was before the price came out. So he said, we are going through the process of negotiating the price, and that negotiation will include myself as a major shareholder, but bear in mind that my goal is not to be diluted unless it is accretive. He said, I want to make sure that whatever capital is raised minimizes dilution by making sure that the return on the capital far exceeds the dilution, and then unless we're not going to do it. And at the time, he owned just under 53% of the company. And he said this is a line that stood out to me. He said he will be the most significant investor in the APO. This is the quote. The article is quoting him. I wasn't there, but this is just saying what this was the article is saying. But declined to say how many shares he will buy. However, if he is to maintain his current holdings, he would have to purchase just over 158 million shares. right?
Jeez.
But like
How much is that?
if you check I guess at
At APO
at
price, 65 times 100 and how much? That's
58 million, that'd be
crazy.
10. But the thing is, that was more than the APO. That would have been 10.2 billion. But then the APO was only to raise like 5 billion or so. But I guess I just found it interesting because when I saw this, I was like, wait, this is a bit interesting. Like he's gonna actually be buying into the APO. But then when I checked the shareholdings, like post the APO, he didn't buy it. He's been, I don't think the company that he owns has bought any NCB shares. It's really just been selling over the last few
Well, I
years, like,
mean,
you know.
did he lie? He said he would be the most significant. He didn't say he'd be buying.
Significant investor. So what does that
These guys use words well, you know.
yeah, and
Use
then
words fair.
there's another one. There's another quote. Hold on, there's another quote, you know, with him. And I'm just seeing these quotes and I'm just like, hold on. So the reason we're talking about this is that, you know, it's, you know, well, no, what I should show is that if you look at so big up my money JA for this, right? You can see the top 10 shareholding list of NCB over the last few years, right? So let's go way, way, way back. So this would have been, how far back does this go? So December 2022, his company did buy shares. AIC Barbados, they bought 1 million shares. I don't know what the price was at that time, but say it was 60, 65 or something. That would have been like 60 mil. So bam, they bought shares. Then the next quarter, March 2023, no change. Next quarter, June 2023, they sold shares, 38, to almost 39 million shares. You know, people don't realize how much money that is. That's a lot of money. It'd be nice if they showed you the, I guess, dollar value, but then they'd have to work out what the price was then. And
it would be the average price throughout that period, though.
Yeah. And then September, like if you check back, so I can't do everyone. So let's just look at it. So March 2023. Well, let's compare December's then. So December 2022, they owned 1.3 billion shares. Up to December 2024, they own 1.2 billion shares. So he's been like a net seller over that time, right? So it's not just him who has been selling. Like if you look at it, the previous, was it chairman, Patrick Hilton? He was a chairman, right?
Yeah.
He has also been selling. So he got shares. I'm trying to say when he got shares again. I think he got shares March, like early. Oh no, hold on. December 2023. He was issued. He was the fourth largest shareholder in the company. He was issued at this current value, it's 2.8 billion.
Yeah.
Right. So he was issued 60 million shares. And if you look at how much shares he's been selling tons, like
every quarter.
Not every, but there was one where he didn't have but like 4 million shares.
From 1 year till now, from Q2 2024. Okay, that was the only.
Is that quarter he sold 13.6 million shares. You realize like how much like millions of dollars he's been selling. Like him, AIC Barbados, they've all been selling. So it's like, yes, these things, like, yes, business could be looking better, profits could be up, but at the end of the day, supply and demand, you know. And what I've seen is that essentially, I think the reason that company, Leechen's company, is selling shares is that the shares were pledged. What I mean is like they borrowed money against the shares. So they said, okay, we have this thing, it's valuable, it's worth whatever billions of dollars, and they did this years ago. So if I have $1 billion worth of shares, lend me 10 million, lend me 50 million, because I could just sell the shares to pay back. I was trying to find out how much of the shares were pledged. I don't think it's really public and such, but there was this article from the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian, and I don't know, where they necessarily got it from, but it actually spoke to how many shares were pledged. This was back in 2009. It was saying that at the time when this was at a time when he owned 1.68 billion shares, and it said that there was a recent financial assessment done by NCB Capital Markets. This said that more than 1.3 billion shares of the AIC Barbados 60% stake in NCB had been pledged. Right? So 1.3 billion shares were pledged, and they said not that many were not pledged. So they didn't really have that many shares that they could freely sell or control. There's only about 150. So basically, he was like very heavily, or that company that he's tied to was very heavily leveraged. So it's like, okay, you imagine you're worth $1 billion, you borrow 900 million instead of just borrowing 10 million, 50 million, whatever. You're borrowing a heavy, portion of that money. So it's like, hey, if things go bad, like the value of the thing that you owned starts to drop and you owe the money, you're going to have to sell. And then it's like a downward spiral because you selling is going to, unless there's some massive increase in the demand, it's going to drop the price. And then if the price is dropping, and then you still owe the money, you're going to have to sell, and you have to sell in at cheaper prices. And it's just it's like a snowball effect, I guess, I found that interesting. And then there was this other. So look at this. There was this other article, another quote.
The bond?
No. So this was, let's see. This was a Gleaner article February this year, February 19, 2025. Leechen declares commitment to NCB ownership. And so look at this. So this said, at this time, so this was February 19th, 2025. It said there was a large transaction in the NCB stock. It said 9 million units on January 30th, worth nearly 450 million. So let's check that. I think my manager would show that if it was, what was that, January 30th? To double check that to see if it was. So this was January. Let's see. So on January 30th, so there was a $9 million trade at, 9 million units trade at 50. So that works out to 450 million, right? And so this would have been within the quarter one, right? And an article says, but Leechen said the disposal was not done by him. Look at what the quote he says. I am unlikely to be selling at these prices, he said, right? But then, if you check the shareholding within that period, so this was January this year. So if you see, okay, how many shares were in December 2023, and then how many, if you know the starting point, December 2023, they own this amount of shares, then by the end of March, it should show that the sale. It said, well, wait, no, I should look at, hold on. Did I miss? Did they drop their March report yet? Oh, no, they haven't. So they haven't dropped the March report, but then, I think I know it. There was a connected party notice. So you haven't seen, the March report hasn't dropped yet. But I think there was a notice saying there was like a connected party trade. Yes, in February, and a connected party has sold shares trade between January 30th. I mean, at the end of the day, we will see if it was him. But I found that quote. It wasn't that he said, I did not sell. He said, I am unlikely to be selling.
Did he lie, though?
To be selling. Yeah, and
can I show you something? Click the link I sent in our group a while ago, right?
Wait, can you send it in Riverside?
Yeah, I can also send it in Riverside. But actually, yeah. So I'm just dropping it right here. Preston will bring up this link, but you found an article about 2009 that showed him pledging shares, but it's a much more recent article that I found actually from last year. And basically, I mean, it's quite interesting because he pledged shares of NCB as collateral for financial obligations. and he defaulted on this. I don't know. Let me read it out. So this, well, it's loading. I don't know why this site takes a long time to load, but basically this is titled Leechen's Portland, Barbados makes bond payment agreement. So Portland, Barbados Limited, it's a company controlled by entrepreneur Michael Leechen, has agreed to pay the trustee US 16 million plus interest between May 29 and August 15, 2024. Republic Bank Limited announced last week that the company defaulted on its obligations under the supplemental trust deed to pay note holders the final bullet payment of US 23 million on April 30th. So they missed that date to pay this much money. As reported by the Guardian newspaper, the current collateral for the US $23 million note is $4 million in cash, as well as shares in NCB's NCB Financial Group, which were pledged with the stock exchanges of Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. So it's not the first time he's pledged shares, and it's kind of tough because you pledge shares as a collateral for this bond. You're kind of defaulting on these payments now. So yeah, I mean, you brought up a lot of good points still about NCB and the supply, because as we know, with supply and demand, once you increase supply and demand stays the same, the price would normally fall. And I think that's also what we're seeing now, because not only is, even though Michael Leechen said he's not selling shares, he clearly is selling shares. Or he didn't really phrase that he wouldn't. He said he would be unlikely. And, these guys, they can speak very well, better than both you and I can. Right. And so not just him, Patrick Hilton, who was given shares, is also selling. We don't even know if it's on the open market. Could probably check and see if you've been seeing a lot of huge shares being crossed and so on. But yeah, I mean, there are a ton of different reasons. And then we didn't even take into full account the APO itself and people buying. People buying at that high price, that $65.
Yeah, and then now those people are down. Like, what?
How much are they down by?
So it's $65.
42 now?
By like 20% or so?
No, bro, that's way more than 20%. 65 to 42? That's way more than 20%.
It's 40. Well, I'm saying 46 is the price I see today.
46.
Yeah, just around 25, over 25% they're down, yeah. And so then you have those people who bought in and they're now sitting down,
Yeah.
It's going to create a interesting, I don't know, I'm just wondering like how, I wish I could find out, I guess, how much money is owed. Like, yes, that pledge share thing that I found, that was back then. Like, how has it changed since,
I mean, at that price in 2009, NCB stock price was, let me tell you, stock price was between $16 and $18 per share in 2009. So yeah, I'm not really seeing, but there are a lot of, because there are there are a lot of negative things we could say, but there are also a lot of different positive things as well that could come from, like, the fact that he's trying to push more dividends from the company and squeeze more dividends.
I think they held off on a dividend payment. They would have normally declared I think last year they declared a dividend around now, but they haven't declared one yet. But they haven't called a board meeting, so I don't know if it's that they're not going to pay on this quarter one. I don't know.
Good question.
I don't know. Because the yield is starting to go up still, so I think if they can maintain the yield, that could be interesting. I think I was just wondering, could NCB actually, could he be pressured so much that he actually has to sell? Like, imagine if, like, I guess I was trying to think, like, what would make me buy NCB with all of this that I'm seeing now? I definitely probably wouldn't buy it. But I was like, yo, if there's a new owner, like Takeover bid announced for NCB at, I don't know, $50 or something like that, or $60 or something like that.
Leechen would sell?
It's not that I don't think it's like if he had a choice, but if he literally had to, because it's like, the people that he owes money are saying, hey, we can't keep extending this. You owe us too much money.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can't, if you sell the shares on the markets, you're going to just keep dumping the price. So I don't know.
And he also, well, I don't really know we know about his other investments overseas. We spoke about them in the previous episode where, he's investing heavily into nuclear, it's nuclear projects on a whole, whether it's within nuclear medicine or actually building, small modular reactors, and those kind of things. So, and those things are capital intensive. So you do need a lot of capital to be pumping into those kind of projects and so on. On top of financing, a lot of this debt, like paying down a lot of the debt that you owe people. Because we were even concerned about NCB maybe a year or two ago when we started to see Michael Leechen sell a lot of his assets, right? House
so that
over here, mega yacht over there. So, next property over here. Like we used to see a lot of those sales in the media, and you guys can find them. I think Preston might look for a lot of them. And at that point, we were saying, okay, is it that he's cash strapped? Like, you can be a billionaire and still not have cash. Like, yes, you could have all these assets that drain your cash and so on, and you're a billionaire because of your share price. But if your share price is, going in the mud, you're not paying dividends, so you're not getting the cash that you used to you're used to, to finance a lot of these things and your lifestyle and investments and so on. It does put a strain on your pockets. Definitely puts a strain on your pocket.
I'm seeing somewhere that they said he sold the yacht for 362 million US. That would have been about 58 billion Jamaican. And then at NCB's, well, the holdings that he has through AIC is actually 57 bill. Wow. Like if you put that into perspective, him selling that yacht was like him selling around this stake in NCB at the current price.
Jeez.
Wow. That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he had a yacht worth that. Like he has his stock over there that he has his yacht. Dang. Yeah.
Jeez. I mean, I wonder what else he has he could possibly be selling. Because I don't know. As much as yes, takeover bid can occur, AIC still owns, they're still majority shareholder. In fact, they own 47, so they're just under that 50% now. So they own 47.14%.
Oh, he had another yacht before. You knew that?
Mm-mm.
He previously owned one called Quattroel, valued at 250 million before upgrading to the AHPO. Wow. Dang. It has a helipad, cinema, spa, jacuzzi, stateroom, gym.
Jeez. Yeah, why would I leave this yacht? Jeez.
Wow. Damn, that's actually so funny that you put that into perspective.
Yeah.
Like how much the yacht compared to his stake in NCB.
I'm wondering what these other companies feel too, like the ones that, like Sagicor is number 4, National Insurance
I know the
Fund
Cornerstone the Cornerstone buy made sense. I think the Leechen is the godfather of Paul Simpson's child or one of his children. So like I guess it almost be like, hey, and maybe he even buys it back if maybe his plan was, let me sell it to someone that I'd rather sell it to someone that I know versus like someone that I don't know, because suppose maybe he's under pressure now, 10-15 years from now, things turn around and he's like, hey, I want to buy it back from you. Maybe his friend could say, okay, I could buy it back at an agreed price. I don't know.
Yeah, because when did they buy? They just got into top 10, no? Cornerstone?
I think December. I don't know. They could have been buying before. I don't know if like they bought all of it one time or they just bought a significant stake. But yeah.
But they just, December quarter is when they reach top 10 shareholdings.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I just wonder what What if like Patrick Hilton keeps selling? What if AIC Barbados keeps having to sell? It's like the things could be good, but it's like if the demand isn't enough and they already issued the shares, like there's so much downward selling pressure on the stock. I really because I don't know, I guess I was looking at it for a possible play, but I'm just like, that's too much.
Is it a bit too risky?
Yeah, because once again, as I said, if I was someone buying now, I'd probably be hoping for a takeover.
Is great. The PE is 8, bro. What do you mean? Single digit PE.
You say, oh, that's less than probably the other banks or other.
Yeah, and look at they pay dividends. You know, like they also. I remember. I don't remember which. I remember reading it in one of the reports or so on, and I think they want to be paying up to like their target dividend payout ratio is like 50%. Yeah. So their profits.
They did like have some profit targets that I was looking at. Like they said, I think it was like some investor briefing or something, and I was looking at what the yield could be like. So I think they have the potential to do like 30. Was it 30 billion? Hold on, 30 billion in profit. So if they did a 30 billion profit, they paid out half of that. If you're buying now at like $45, that'd be a dividend yield of 12.9%. You know, that's that's pretty dang high.
Yeah.
And if it hits the 30, that's a dividend yield of almost 20%, like 19%, you know? 25 dividend yield of 23% if they can hit that. If they paid out that much of their profits and they made that profit and they could make that consistently. So that's why I was kind of like, wow, that would like a dividend yield like that I don't think would stay on the market. So
yeah,
I was like, if that were to happen, you know, I think that would definitely, could, shoot up the stock price. But question is like, I don't know, like, how do I know when they're going to stop selling?
Demand. I mean, you'd start seeing more. I don't, I know pensions already like they own the stock and so on. Like you can actually see it, MFNG Asset Management
I think
Limited.
What someone was telling me was happening is that like with the, like, some of the institutions and stuff or funds, they have limits to how much they can buy. Yeah. So it's like they literally will say, oh, this can't be more than 10% of your portfolio. So it's like if you already say you bought into the APO at 65, it's like if you already capped it out there, it's like you can't really buy much. You can't really buy any more at 50, at 40, at 30. So, or what if you bought a lot at 100 or at 150, at 200? It's like imagine capping at 200 and you're seeing it drop down to $50 and you can't buy because the fund says no, you can't because this is the regulation or whatnot.
Jeez.
So yeah, I know it's even like hitting certain funds because I think MJE was buying. I think I don't know if they're still buying, but they had bought a lot, and I think it was like $70 or something.
It was above APO price.
I remember even David Mullins, who was on our podcast, I think his fund, he was saying like bought. Then he said they're heavy investing like NCB because he has like ties with Leechen and stuff. So I'm like, how much? Where did they buy? Did they buy into the APO? Okay, they bought into APO. They're down like 20-25%. Are they still buying?
He said he bought into the APO.
He said that? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Couldn't check by the episode. But yeah, I really.
You look at Barry's tweets.
He tweeted about it recently.
I'm gonna just share screen. Like I hope you can see my screen. Yes. But this was I just looked at the latest tweets from Chris Berry on NCB. And it's just funny. NCB stock recovers after large sellers pull orders off market. I think this was post the APO and so on. What NCB at 70 in Trinidad, APO overhang gone. What you say, up or down? And it's just, oh yes, remember this? The National Insurance Fund buying 22 million NCB share. This is at 10 million USD. Nice trade. I know the National Insurance Fund. They're one of the organizations that just have been buying a lot on the market itself.
I think they also bought into APO.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting.
And then look at that. The market did not like the news of the NCB APO, shaving $2 off the stock price in one day. People are expecting the same outcome with other failed APOs like DTL and JMMB. Are they wrong? How low will we go? And what price was it at then?
Now. This was September 13, 2023. It was at $68.
Yeah, and look at it now. It's like $40 or $40 and mash.
Was Barry right or wrong?
Yeah.
How low will we go? Well, it went as low as $40, Sir Chris. So maybe you know what you're talking about.
I think they bought those, so
yeah. Which I wonder. I'd love to hear like his reasoning in terms of buying. Like,
they talk about it on the briefing that they say, oh, it's undervalued and the dividend yield, and I think also
they're
like
not
the level
wrong.
of.
They're not necessarily wrong, because outside of stock price, which a lot of these guys don't care about. We know, we know Mayberry does care about those kind of stuff. But if you wanted a company that's undervalued, like their P is 8, they're posting profits, and their profits have been increasing. If you actually look at their profits, even their latest quarter, they're up over 100% quarter over quarter, and so on. So, and that was I think that's their Q1, October to December. Their profits have been up for sure. The company actually doesn't look too bad. They're paying, they want to pay quarterly dividends again. They did pay quarterly dividends last year. It was they paid, what was their yield last year? I think it's the total yield
current price 4.32%.
4.32%. Yeah, it's about 4%. It's 50 cents per share each. All right. So as the price gets lower, it does get more attractive for certain people that are looking for that kind of investment in terms of dividends.
What if Patrick Hilton keeps selling? What if the bond, I don't know.
Yeah. That's always a question, right? How low can it actually
catching a falling knife right now. I don't know if I really want to do it.
Too risky for you?
Yeah. Think so.
Nah, I understand, because you have to
unless I could find out how much he owes, and unless maybe I could find out something like how much money is owed, and then try to track it and say, okay, how much money they owe, what's the share price, how is he paying the debt? Maybe there's that point where, okay, it's kind of held out. But it's what if that happens over the next 2 years or next year? How, I have no idea how to say when it's going to stop,
Yeah. That's the game, isn't it? That's the game, because you have to start meeting even, true. Because even in the absence of that, you still need demand, right? Because even if you find out that, and you find out how much Leechen owes, and all right, maybe he'll stop when he sells X amount of shares, and he stops selling X amount of shares. It's not just him selling. That's the only issue. The general public is probably also selling.
I think the 65 APO could also be a ceiling in a way for a while, unless something really big happens. But the thing is, when I was looking at it, I'm like, yo, you realize if you, at the current price, it's almost like you can make profits without even having to wait, right? Because if it's at 46 now, say you even sell at 55, which would be below APO price, that'd be 18%. If you sell at 60, that's 29% before fees. So it's
True.
I probably wouldn't hold it to 65 if anything.
True.
Unless I see something huge happen that I think is gonna really, keep it up, and even then I really don't know. I don't know.
Imagine this man that bingo and get it as low as $40.10. 40 to 50 is a 25% play. So,
really?
Yeah, 1/4, 25%. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man.
What would
I don't know, because what would make me buy it?
Have you thought about that? Yeah.
Yeah. More somebody take this over, bro. And when I start to meds, who would want a bank.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the player I would go with. Like, who are the players out there that actually may
Could be
not
an
have a
international
commercial?
company.
Could be an
Doesn't necessarily have
international
to be a
company.
Jamaican company. It could be an international company.
True. I wanted it to be a Jamaican company though, if I'm being honest. Just to, NCB is Jamaica's bank, so I wanted to stay within Jamaica, to be honest.
Well, it may not be for that long.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was also a funny tweet. Is it from Chris Berry? I'm gonna see if I can find it. There's a tweet.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think it's from Paul himself. Paul Simpson.
He was tweeting about a bank?
Paul Simpson JA. Let me see it. Let me share my screen. So this is the tweet, guys. He was tweeting about, I don't know what he was tweeting about, but this was it. Stay tuned. The tale of two banks in the heights of COVID. And this was June 27, 2023. And, at this point I was wondering, what is this guy alluding to? The tale of two banks. Paul Simpson, for those who don't know. Wait, what is Paul now?
The CEO of Cornerstone?
I
think he's CEO.
I'm actually not sure what he is. Yeah. I'm not sure if he's still, he may be the CEO of Cornerstone, but there's Cornerstone and and Barito. They're interrelated. However, when he tweeted this, there was a lot of speculation as to what is this guy talking about? Which two banks is he talking about? And I actually thought he was talking about NCB at the time, because it would have been interesting for a player like Cornerstone or Barito to buy NCB. And it's good to see that Cornerstone is now in top 10, right? Who knows? Maybe there are some transactions that, are significantly delayed but are lined up and so on. But I do think that Cornerstone could buy NCB. I mean, they don't have, Barita doesn't have a commercial banking license, right?
Do they have that much money though?
Probably not. But you can find the capital somewhere, bro. You don't need to have it. You just need to find somebody that have it and get it under good terms. Because if when you think about it, the lower the stock price, NCB stock price gets, the more attractive it looks for some external party that wants to buy it. So if this starts to trade at 40s, if this starts to trade at 30s, I wouldn't be surprised if you see, somebody coming in and taking over that company. Somebody starting to buy up a bunch of shares. Somebody probably approaches Michael Leechen and say, hey, I'd buy this from you at a premium.
I think he probably has got offers though, It's probably just like he hasn't got an offer at a price where he's not feeling the pressure yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suspect I don't think he probably has got offers. Like someone say, hey, it's just probably not to the price he feels comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think he would sell it though? Because
I think if he had to, which I'm not saying it, but there could be a point where it literally has to, legally has to, forced into court.
Yeah, I agree, but I feel like you just go a whole lot to it, bro. Because NCB it's more than just cash to him or an investment. It's like, it's so ingrained in Jamaica's
better
culture.
Than jail?
What? How did we get here? No. We're talking about like as a cultural.
I know. I'm just saying, you're saying there's more to him than that, but I'm saying, is it worth more than jail?
Yes, there's a team of lawyers. I mean, don't have to worry about jail, bro. Unless you see something wild come out, which I doubt that would happen. But I hear you. And there are situations where you can squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, but I don't know. It's gonna take a lot for him to sell. It's gonna take a ton for Michael Leechen to sell NCB. But at that point, that's when I would buy. Like, going back to your question, if I see that this bank is actually, if I see the price fall to $30, and yeah, at that point, I would start to question, am I gonna buy
but
or
then
not?
when it happens, you might be like, yo, should I buy it at 20 or something?
No. At $30, I promise you. In fact, I'll say this right now on the podcast. If it hits $30, I am buying. Because even when you mention like the things like the dividend yield and so on at that price, maybe not. That's not the reason I'm buying. I would be buying for somebody taking that over at that price. Because at that price, he must be feeling the pressure. Maybe pledge the shares elsewhere and so on, and you get a margin call at maybe 35 or so on, and it's at $30. It's going to say, yo, we need to sell more. Selling more it triggers that whole positive cycle of the stock price going further lower. You get a margin call again. It's a vicious cycle. At that point, he'll be pressured enough to sell that, like the entire stake. So I would say offers coming in at that price. Well, I'd say if it's trading at 30, I'd say offers coming in at 40. And him saying, well, yeah, just take it at that point. It's probably not worth the hassle. Because maybe he sees that his other investments, like in nuclear and so on, are taking off. And those companies are doing extremely well. And he's probably like, yo, at this point, it don't make sense to focus all my stress and energy and so on into this entity when all these other things over there are been going. Let me just take my exit now and move on. Yay. So that's at the point that I would say I would buy. Because Takeover,
that's your price.
$30, my price. $30 on my price. I know your price is 20 and 25, I know your style already. I know your style already, bro. I know 30 is too rich for you. Well, what's your price? What's your actual
I don't know. It's not just about the price. It's not just about the price for me.
Okay.
I said that I just feel like
there's always a price, fam. $10.
I don't know, man. I mean, I probably won't touch this one. No, I mean, I might watch it fly. You jump in at your 30, it go fly 50. And that's good for you. I'm not going to wrong you, but just like, there's other stuff that don't have that risk. I just shouldn't take that risk on,
Fair. Yeah, I agree with that. For you. That's fair. But I see opportunities everywhere. So we'll see. I promise you, if things start to line up, you're going to jump in NCB.
Oh, we'll see. I don't know. Is this 2 years from now, I'm like a big NCB shareholder and I'm like, yeah, NCB is going to 100. Yeah. I don't care if we did an APO, it's going to 100. Like, ooh. Or, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It'd be good to watch. It'd be good to see how this ages, I guess.
Yeah, it would be good to see how this ages because we could just both be wrong and the stock price start fly and everything is all good and happy because they start printing more profits and the dividends start flowing again and somebody probably buys the rest off Patrick Hilton, maybe Cornerstone, so you don't see that selling pressure as much. And there are a ton of different things that can happen. So let's see. I'm intrigued. Another one to watch, eh? Guys, this is just us chatting. I hope you guys enjoyed this little conversation. And if you did, please subscribe and smash that like button. Right? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments as where do you think NCB is going to go? Do you guys invest in NCB? Do you currently hold NCB? What are your thoughts on the stock?
What's your price?
Yeah.
Awesome.
What's your price? Likely if you've bought, you're more than likely you're down. And if you are
bought
down,
at 40, they were that invested at bought at 40.
True. But a lot of trades happen above the current price. So if you are down, tell us, why are you still holding? Where do you see the company? We'd love to know. All right. That's it from us. Hope you enjoyed it. Limitless out.
Peace.